Hi, and welcome to TalkingBlock, the podcast that features the people of blockchain. In our first podcast, we are speaking to someone who runs crypto's most visited website. Today's guest on the show is Mauvis Ledford, the CTO of CoinMarketCap. He and his 15-member team manage the operations of one of the world's most visited websites. We cover a whole host of topics ranging from their API business, which is responsible for over 30% of their revenues, and why they don't use blockchain on CMC products, and a lot more. I caught up with Mauvis at token 2049, and without further ado, here's the CTO of CMC. At last count, SimilarWeb says that CoinMarketCap does 55 million visits a month.
Yeah, it's up there.
It's up there? So I'll start with the $1 million question.
Yeah.
How do you list on CoinMarketCap?
So we like to publicize our listing process as much as possible.
Right.
The listing process sometimes changes over time, but two of the predominant things is that we want the new cryptocurrency to be listed on at least 2 exchanges. Mm-hmm. We support around 250 exchanges. So that is one of the first biggest rule. The second is we want to see some minimum volume of transactions happening so we know it's not a dead coin. And then third, we have a whole content team that reviews coins, and we have a never-ending list of coins to add to the platform. So we try to do the most popular ones first, and we do a lot of different ways to analyze social media analysis, GitHub commits, all kinds of different ways to come up with a way to find the coins that people want to see listed first. And so it's kind of like Google, where people ask, how do I get number 1 in search results? And Google doesn't give you a play-by-play 100-point list of how to get number 1, because honestly, if everyone followed those rules, then the search engine results would not be useful to the general population. And then Google would pretty much, not be a good product. And so we try to help every exchange in cryptocurrency as much as possible without giving them every single, thing that they need to change. Because we're also trying to keep the highest quality coins on there. And so it's a process we're always trying to optimize and improve upon. We know that we're not perfect at it, but we do think that we have a pretty good team to get all those coins listed as fast as we can, safe and reliably, while still being kind of a trusted source. There's a lot of other exchanges that have possibly hundreds of more coins that they list that we don't, and we're not trying to be the biggest out there. We just want to be a popular, curated list of as many cryptocurrencies and exchanges as possible.
Give me an idea of that scale. Like what kind, given that you curated, you're still talking about over 1,000 coins at least.
Yeah.
Give me an idea of scale in terms of what kind of real-time data you're looking at, how many coins and exchanges do you list, what sort of data do they throw at you, and from a technology standpoint, what sort of complexities kind of come in your way, just out of the sheer scale at which you guys operate?
So pulling data from all the exchanges, we pull from about 250 exchanges total around the world. And in total, we pull from about 440 exchanges, but that's since 2013, and a lot of those exchanges aren't around anymore. And so pulling from these APIs is a notoriously brittle process. Exchanges APIs go down, they'll change their APIs. The same market pair on one exchange is called something else on another exchange. So this is often an automated process as much as possible, but some of it has to go through manual intervention when something happens. And so we have a lot of alerts and monitoring that happen. Generally speaking, when a coin is popular enough, we see max maybe a 2% difference across exchanges around the world. So that's, for example, another way where we can do outlier detection to see if something's going wrong at the exchange level, at the market pair level in the exchange, or even less frequently something on our side. And so we collect data on over 2,000 cryptocurrencies right now. I think it's 2022 or something like that. We pull from a little less than 250 exchanges right now that are currently active. Right now, we connect to WebSockets for the ones that support socket streaming. to download this data, trade data and volume data, and we do just RESTful polling for the ones that don't support WebSockets, and that's pretty much how we're able to do both reported values and then exchange adjusted values that we do internally with derived data at a regular interval.
We'll get to the reported supply and the volumes bit in data in a bit. But what I'm interested to know is how big is your team, and what's the general composition of it, and would you say that you're adequately staffed, and or are you on the lookout for blockchain talent? Technology talent in general.
Yeah, our team is about 30 people, and we're like really distributed around the world. We have a lot of...
I was specifically asking about technology.
Oh, technology. Yeah. So we used to be both on Microsoft Azure and Amazon Web Services, but we've pretty much moved most of our processes on Amazon. Right. We use Cloudflare as our CDN provider. And it does a pretty good job at both being an API accelerator and some DDoS mitigation. We built in a lot of DDoS mitigation and hacking stuff in the platform without Cloudflare. But Cloudflare is really the first line of defense, and they do a pretty great job of doing that.
Have you explored maybe decentralized CDNs and data caches that are coming out right now? There are a bunch of these guys on the network layer who are looking at it, and as a company that's basically chronicles the top companies in blockchain today. Is that something that you look at right now?
It's something that we'd be super fascinated in doing. The only thing is because we have been a top 100 website in the world, and that's just a ginormous amount of data. Not a lot of only the biggest CDNs can really kind of support that weight. And so I've worked previously at everywhere from Disney to Skype. And I've never seen the sheer amount of data requests, both at the on our homepage product and the APIs. I've never seen that level of data outside of this company. So really,
that's saying something, isn't it? Yeah. How big is your team?
So our team is about 30 people, and I'd say it's pretty equally divided between developers, content and marketing people, and business people. So I would say it would probably be more like half developers and the rest content, marketing, and business.
Right. That's a good number. 15 developers is quite a bit.
Yeah.
So tell me this: right now, anyone at your level and with your level of influence, with just the amount of visitors that you get and the data that you show, there's going to be a lot of scrutiny that you perhaps face. The most recent one was about the adjusted volumes on exchanges. It would be quite interesting to know how you report that now on your site, and perhaps what do you think is going wrong there, or is there any merit to the accusations that were coming your way?
Yeah. So our goal is to be and maintain to be the truth of source in crypto, and that's so important to us. And one of the things to mention on that is that I'd say a good 70% of our revenue comes from the ads from the site, and then 30% comes from our API product, which launched a year ago. And what's really great about that is it enables us. We've never raised venture funding. We don't have a burn rate, and so we don't have a super high incentive to take money for people to do not good things. And so for us to change values at an exchange or make up a price for a cryptocurrency or get paid to list something could totally destroy us as a company, and that's why we are so against that stuff. So there have been incidents in the past, like once or twice, where a coin would either show lower or higher average price than was accurate for 5 minutes or longer until we corrected it, and that's really dealing with the brittle nature of connecting with these exchanges. And when things go wrong at the exchange level, we support 250 exchanges, and because we are averaging using volume weighted stuff, sometimes if one of them starts talking crazy to our APIs, we have a lot of outlier detection to turn that off and review it and stuff. And sometimes that doesn't go on a rare moon, blue moon, that doesn't go perfectly, and it requires manual intervention. And so, generally speaking, anytime something like that happens, we get accused of trying to adjust the market or do something in our favor. But really, that's the farthest away from what we want to do. We just want to report accurate data. And so, in the future of CMC, again, we're not trying to be also the crypto police and decide on what gets popular. And we want to really start. Your question was like, we get the reported volume and other values from the exchanges, but we do work on our side to adjust those values when we find that, for example, here's a great use case is some exchanges do zero fee trades. If you do zero fee trades, then it's very easy to make up a huge amount of volume for a coin. And so in our ranking system, we do not include the volumes from those zero transaction exchanges.
Right.
And there's 2 or 3 things that we do to just try to reach more of an accurate number of what's really going on. Like when you buy or sell on a particular exchange, we want the number on our site to actually reflect that as much as possible. And in that same vein, in the future, we want to provide as much granularity to the end user so they can do as much research using our APIs to access direct exchange information that's not adjusted by us, only perhaps normalized, because the APIs for all these exchanges are varied, very varied. So even to have a central API that you can connect at the socket level or even polling with a unified API is something that people want, especially the lowest latency as possible. So that's the kind of stuff we're looking for in the future, especially with what's actually storing actual trade buys and sells. That's incredibly valuable to a lot of people, so they can come up with their own averages, look for wash trading and this stuff. And that's the kind of stuff that we also want to do on our side. But if the people want raw data, then we'll provide them the raw data through our APIs.
While we're on that, why don't you talk to me about about your API business? You said 30% of your revenue comes from there. What sort of API products do you have right now, and what kind of people are using them?
Yeah. So our APIs came out about a year ago, and it's super interesting because our company's been around since I think 2013, and it's so surprising that we released an API so late. And that's intentional because we really wanted to craft the perfect API. It's very consistently written. There's 17 endpoints right now. And the thing is we've had an API for a little while, but it only provided, I think, 3 endpoints, and it was only for latest data. And you couldn't do a lot with it. The new API is super flexible, and we have a massive free plan that is better in every way than the old plan that the old API supported. And a lot of people thought that when we moved to the new API that we'd be cutting off the free users, but in actuality, the new free plan for what we used to call the Pro APIs, but now we just call the APIs since we've sunsetted the older one. It gives you more API hits, better rate limit, pretty much all around. For the higher API plans, we give you access to older data. So our old APIs didn't give you access to historical data, and we have a lot of it since 2013 at a 5-minute interval. Like, nobody else has that sheer amount of data, and we provide that in the APIs in various bundles. And so there is so much. The API documentation at CoinMarketCap.com/API is really well written. Like, we really want it to be easy to read, and it's also automatically generated from our source code. So whenever we update the API and roll it out, it automatically updates the documentation, so it'll never be out of sync. And so these API endpoints give you everything from the latest data, the top ranks. Basically, you can rebuild our entire homepage using our own APIs, which ironically is something that we're actually going to be doing in the future. We're actually going to be powering our own homepage via our own APIs and reducing the complexity of our architecture. So that's how much we really rely and depend and know that our APIs are ready for that stuff. There's like a lot of competitors that have released an API, years ago, but you're going to find that their APIs are not consistent. When you use one of our 17 endpoints, you're going to find that every single one, you already know how to use the other ones, right? You don't even have to read the documentation because they're consistently written in the same way. Whereas some of the other ones are using parameter names and that don't 100% make sense. And then you access them different for different APIs. The format that the request comes back in doesn't include timestamps. Like with our API, if you wanted the price of Bitcoin at every UTC morning, 1201, for the last 31 days, we return to you those values, but we also say whether that's 1201.59 or 12, because when we're pulling from these exchanges, it's not always going to be at the same second level. And we're providing to the end user, the API user, the exact time reference down to the second of when that happened. For some reason, a lot of the other APIs don't do that. And that's valuable to know the difference between the price of Bitcoin at this moment or 5 minutes ago,
Right.
or maybe there was an outage at their site and you're just getting it from their cache from 15 minutes ago or an hour ago.
Right.
If they're not going to give you the timestamps, then you have no idea. So that's the kind of stuff where we really thought things out. Our error object is built in that you can always check to see, if anything goes wrong, including like rate limits and stuff. You can check the error object first, and that's what we write about in the documentation and stuff like that.
That's really good to know. Now, given the kind of influence that CoinMarketCap does have on our industry, there would be probably a push from the community at some point saying, is there a blockchain use case that you guys could use in the application that you have? Have you thought of that? And is that something on the cards, or is that just too much data and volume for existing blockchains to handle right now?
Yeah, I think in a lot of ways, we're all like lovers of blockchain technologies. But in a ways, we are still kind of in the 90s of this technology.
Yeah,
and
the dial-up phase.
Decentralization is amazing, and we do want to do more stuff. Everything from identity to voting, so the end users can actually tell us in a way, what exchanges or cryptocurrencies to add. We want to do all of those things, but when it's good and ready. People can probably tell that CoinMarketCap moves a little bit slower than the other, services that are similar to us. And in a way, that does hurt us, but we're very calculated in everything we do. We want it to work well, and we don't want to release something to have it fail and then, kind of be less dependable, known as less dependable. So that's the biggest thing is when we release anything, we want it to be polished and dependable, because that's the kind of brand that we've kind of built up so far.
That's good to know. Tell me a little bit about your culture. You told me that you don't have an office and you guys are distributed all over the world. How do you make this work, especially at this scale?
Yeah, so we have engineers and business folks all over, from Singapore to New York City to San Francisco to Taipei, and we pretty much have regular meetings online. We follow loosely the Scrum cycle,
Right.
and we send email statuses of what we did yesterday, what we're going to do today. So we're all kind of in the know in the kind of departments that we've created, or even sub projects that we created. We can do kind of stuff like that. And so we prefer asynchronous communication when we need to talk to somebody, because everyone's in different time zones, and so that they can respond as they need it. So we prefer, something. We don't use Slack, but we use something Slack-like. Yeah. Well, I'm not gonna say which, but because we don't like to show too many preferences, for different products.
Right.
It's not the most perfect product, but and we may change. So anything I say now can actually change tomorrow, right? And then followed by email. Email is trusted. It's proven, and so we do statuses that way as well. And then we do use Trello a lot for managing milestones and making sure things are released on schedule.
Nice. So before we kind of conclude this, are you guys hiring?
We're always hiring. So if you go to CoinMarketCap.com, you can find the hiring link. We are currently looking for an extra project manager. I know we're also looking for machine learning person. And we've been growing at, I'd say, 1 or 2 persons a month. So by some companies that's very slow, but like we don't want to double the size of the company and affect the culture. So we're doing it slowly and as needed. We do have 6 major projects we're releasing this year. So with 30 people in the company, we keep very busy. But it's super exciting when we release each one of those things. The other thing that people don't realize is outside of the APIs is that we have a daily newsletter. We have a full-time person that does crypto news. We have a Telegram channel with a Telegram bot. It's interactive, and he also tells you the news. And then obviously we have the blog. And, you know, for people who want to also speak at these things, like I said, like, you know, we are predominantly an ad-based platform that people can promote their stuff. Like you and I met together because you saw the banner for, I think, this event, you know, on the homepage, right? Yeah. So we love just unifying the crypto community together like that. And, you know, that's part of the reason, like a couple of years ago, we didn't attend any conferences. We didn't really meet with people, but we realized, you know, being open and letting, you know, showing our faces is a great thing. And that's why we're attending so many of these events now.
It's lovely to put a face behind face to CoinMarketCap right now. And Mauvis, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
And we hope to work with you and hopefully bring you to India.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Awesome. Thanks. That was Mauvis Ledford, the CTO of CoinMarketCap. Did you enjoy this format? Tell us how we can make this podcast better for you in our official Telegram channel @TalkingBlock or write to us at feedback@talkingblock.co. Until next time, cheers.